All right, we're gonna this review for God. No, it's not Godzilla. It was a review for Gamera versus. That's not the one I wanted. It's Gamera versus Guiron. This is a film. No, so it's a Godzilla Gamera film. It's not Godzilla. It's Gamera film. I have been drinking, as you can quite clearly tell. I've got Monday off, so I'm recording these reviews basically the same day I've watched the films. It's definitely a kaiju film. This film, from what I've read, it seems to be it was made very cheap. And it very much is the case in the film. Like it's not bad, but it's just, it definitely, maybe it's just me reading because I've read into the fact it was made cheap, so I think it's cheap, but it does also look a bit cheap. Let me adjust that. So, mate, stop picking up that one. That's the previous. That's not the previous. The sequel film. So the Guiron does look a little cheap. Let's be honest. It definitely appears a little cheap from what I've seen. Well, I say from what I've seen. I've seen the whole film. I'm not aware. Okay, this is what happens when you drink too much. Don't drink too much, kids. It's bad for your health. No, but it does look a little cheap, and the world also looks a lot cheap. I think when I was watching the movie, I definitely noticed there was a few scenes where it was like projecting onto a wall, and our actors, like the actors, and by actors I mean like the two kids, who are just like, yes, things are happening, and you're like, oh, this is clearly a projection because I can see things that are on the wall. And it's like, it's definitely a little cheap, and that's being generous. Let's be honest. It's a little cheap, which is a little bit of a problem. Like, the kaiju looks a little cheap. The exterior set doesn't look that cheap. It's just there's a few scenes where it is still rear projection, and you're just like, oh, that also looks a little bit cheap. You're like, that's not great. It's definitely not great. I do like, we had a reappearance of Virus. Yeah, Virus is like a silver Virus who's also from this planet. It was basically there just to establish that Guiron is like incredibly strong, because he basically just like almost immediately cuts off his leg, cuts off two of his wings, and it's just like, yeah, bitch, what's up? Like, this guy is clearly trying to like be like, you know, Guiron is like super strong, like. So they're definitely establishing that as he's super strong. He has weird shurikens that come, like they're in his head, and they just kind of fire out. That's kind of weird, but it fits. It's also what Gamera uses to fire a fucking blade straight through his head. where those shurikens lay, he's just like, no, not for blade. He fires a missile through his head, straight fucking through there, like. Whoo. The main villains of this film, you have like two female aliens who kind of hang out on this planet. You're like, okay, they're fine. And then they're just like, oh yeah, by the way, what we're gonna do is we're gonna eat some children brains. You're like, oh, you guys are evil as fuck. It's like, there's very few extra things you could add to them where you could be like, oh no, they're evil. It's like eating children brains is like top notch. Just like, oh, we're evil. It's like, yeah, you fucking are. I can quite clearly tell. These bitches be evil as fuck. Like, and I thought they might be like, I thought they were gonna play like the one of them was like, I'm evil as fuck, and then the second one was like, I'm not sure about these ideas, but then one of them basically gets lasered by the other, so it's like, oh, okay, they're not going with that plan. I thought they might go with that idea of like, yeah, you always have like the one that's like, hey, eat children brains, yeah, and the other one's like, I don't know about that. That seems a little evil. And yeah, but no, she gets basically the ship they're on. They try to take off. It gets wrecked, and they're like, "All right, well, you're injured, so I'm gonna shoot you in the head." Like, oh, okay, that's pretty bad. Weirdly, it's weird with the camera films. You're like, oh, this is supposed to be a kids movie, and then like the main kaiju is just like, I'm gonna chop off a head. You're like, well, what? Isn't this supposed to be a kids movie? It's quite brutal for a kids movie. Guiron is quite brutal as a villain. Yeah, like, and then so you have these two guys who kind of hang out and basically go off, and then the kind of like the B story is basically like the Japanese kid's sister is like, yeah, no, they went off in an alien spaceship, and everyone was like, yeah, both the mothers of the two kids is just like, shut the fuck up. What the fuck are you talking about? That is not the fuck. No, fuck off. You know what you're talking about, kid. You know what you're talking about. And the only one who listens is the cop. Fun enough, the cop is actually a good guy, because he basically brings in like he brings in a bunch of reporters, so they can't really deny that. So, oh, okay. So, yeah, the cop is decent, which is a shock. Yeah, the mothers are just like, nah, this kid is fucking off for a fucking rocker. So, yeah, overall, it's good. I kind of like when the kids are like kind of exploring this alien world. There's definitely some reuse of sets and like props and stuff from the previous film, but not enough to like really knock it. Like you're like, oh, that looks obviously like from the previous film. But yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. It's just like, yeah, these aliens are just like, I'm gonna eat some children brains. Nom, 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 nom. You're like, oh, okay. You guys are evil as fuck. you guys are quite clearly evil. I do apologize. Yeah, we're gonna kill you. Yeah. And then Gamera gets these kids back by just doing some repairs on a spaceship. Just goes, kind of takes two pieces of a spaceship, slams it together, and goes, wow, repair. Use my repair beam. Yeah. Not a bad one. Definitely not a bad one. I'd recommend it. Like, I kind of like the look of the world and some of the sets in it, and I like the idea. It's basically like a planet that's like the opposite orbit from Earth, so it's just like constantly orbiting. Yeah, it's basically 180 degrees from Earth, from the sun. So it's just always like the opposite side of just the sun, so we can never see it. Yeah, that is Gamera versus Giga. No, it's not. It's Gamera versus Guiron. The next one is Gamera versus Giga. So look forward to that review and commentary, which will be out next week. So we'll see you then. For now, I say, live long and prosper.